Are you looking to build an amazing cloud computing career? Do you want to learn how to design an architecture for the cloud? Well, if so, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and we're an organization dedicated towards building high-performance cloud computing careers. I've been working in technology for well over 25 years, and I've been coaching and mentoring others for 2 decades now. Today we're going to talk about how to design a cloud architecture. And you may wonder why I'm making this video. I have interviewed hundreds of amazing, incredibly smart people in the last 2 months. These are highly intelligent, wonderful people, super motivated, that all have multiple AWS, Azure, and GCP certifications. But when I actually ask them to design a cloud architecture, most are lost. So the reason we're creating this video is to help you get your first cloud architect job. See, there is a massive difference between a cloud architect and a cloud engineer, and there is a huge difference between AWS training and what you will actually do as a cloud architect. And that's fine. You need AWS training to show that you know how to implement these things on the cloud, and you need architecture training to learn how to build a cloud architecture. So today we're going to talk about cloud architecture training. Now, when you're bringing your technology to the cloud, you really have 2 options. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. You basically have lift and shift, and you have cloud native. Now, lift and shift is by far the most common cloud migration in today's world, and it makes sense. So in a lift and shift environment, you basically take what you have, you just pick it up and copy it to the appropriate service on the cloud. Works great, super easy to do, it's fast. For the most part, it doesn't require any reconfiguration of your applications, and you have complete control. If you pop your services in AWS and AWS doesn't work out for you, no big deal. You can bring them back to your data center, or you can send it to Azure or GCP. That's why people love the lift and shift. It's super flexible, doesn't require any refactoring of your applications. Now, having said that, there are optimizations that can be done on the cloud if you were to go to cloud native and say serverless environments. Now, the downside of doing cloud native is once you refactor your applications, and they all have to be recoded and refactored, and that can get very expensive to move them to the cloud. And once they're on the cloud, now you're stuck with that cloud provider, which means you may gain some benefits, but if it's not working out for you, you are stuck. And that's the trepidation around the serverless and the cloud native applications. But it's worse than that. We've all dealt with a phone company, a cable company, where they give us promotional pricing, and then someday they choose to raise our rates. And once you go cloud native and you put everything in a cloud provider and they choose to raise the rates, there's nothing you can do about it. And the reason there's nothing you can do about it is it might cost millions of dollars just to refactor your applications and reconfigure them, and it might take you month after month after month to do it. So you've got your 2 options, cloud native, which offers some advantages but also disadvantages, and lift and shift, which is the most common. Since lift and shift is by far the most common type of migration to the cloud today, that's what we're going to discuss. Now, it's common for people like me to work for a migration that will have 10,000 remote locations, thousands upon thousands of servers, containers everywhere, petabytes of storage, and all of this is going to take some really deep data center and network knowledge. Remember, the cloud is nothing more than a network or a data center, regardless of how complicated anybody makes it or how complicated or fancy the terms they use. It's just a network and a data center. So let's say, for example, and this is a super basic architecture, but let's just work with it for right now. Let's say you have an organization that basically needs a high security 3-tier web app. And basically they're looking for 10 web servers, 10 app servers, and a MySQL database. And the database needs to be optimized with read replicas and caching. So how would you do this? Well, I told you have 10 web servers, 10 app servers, and a MySQL database. In order to be using more than one web server, we've got to be using a load balancer. So we need to think about load balancers that we're going to use for the web tier and the app tier. But I told you there are 10 servers for the web tier and 10 servers for the app tier, but I didn't tell you anything about those servers. So the next thing you need to figure out is, what are these servers? So if I were to tell you, for example, that the web servers have 16 cores and 128 gigs of RAM, and the app servers have 32 cores and 256 gigs of RAM, now you know what to do. So for your web servers, basically you need a load balancer, so you're going to pick a load balancer, and you need servers that are going to match 16 cores and 128 gigs of RAM. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to the AWS page, you're going to find an EC2 instance that's going to be your web servers, 16 cores and 128 gigs of RAM. You're going to map that as close as possible. What are you going to do for your app servers? You're going to do the same thing. You're going to look for something that has 32 cores and 256 gigs of RAM. Find that, and those are the EC2 instances that you would use for your app tier. Now, what if you were on Google? So you use Google Compute Engine instead of the AWS EC2. It's really no different. It's all the same technology with all the providers. You're just picking a virtual machine. Now, if the database is running on a server that's got 128 cores and 4 terabytes RAM, and it's running on a system that's got 10 million IOPS, which is very common for a bare metal server that needs to do high performance environment, how are you going to do that on the cloud? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to look for a compute instance that comes as close as possible to 128 cores and 4 terabytes RAM. No big deal, you found it. Now the next challenge is going to be, how are you going to get 10 million IOPS on the cloud? Well, first, do you need 10 million IOPS? The answer is probably not. But if you do, no big deal. You take the provisioned IOPS volumes, or the fastest volumes you can get, you maximize whatever the best IOPS that you can get, and then you can configure these drives in a RAID array until you get to the speed that you need. That's how you build a cloud computing architecture. Basically, for lift and shift, you map the web servers, you map the app servers, you map the database servers. Now, I had mentioned when we were dealing with MySQL, we had a read replica. So what are you going to do? You're going to look at the capacity of the read replicas, and you're going to take those same capacity, and they're going to be your read replica instances, identical to what you used in the data center. And if you had a cache prior to the data set, you're going to use a cache in the AWS or the GCP environment. For AWS, just pick the same Elasticache type that you were using in your data center, and now you know how to migrate them. Now, I did say that that is the lift and shift for the servers, but we also talked about the need for a high security environment. So let's talk about what that high security environment is. I said we have a simple web application that needs high security. So how do you build high security? First, you look at the layers necessary of security to give you what you need. At the edge or the perimeter of your network, you use a firewall. A firewall protects the edge of your network. So in AWS, for example, you can use an industrial grade firewall if you need something significant, like something from Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint. You can get that from the marketplace and run it straight on an EC2 instance, or you could use WAF. It's your choice as the architect. You pick the kind of firewall you need. If you've got a web app that really matters, you probably want to use some type of intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. Again, you can get that from the marketplace, place that in your VPC, and use that to protect your servers. Now, how about DDoS protection? Of course, there's options out there, or you could just use AWS Shield. So we've pretty much locked down the perimeter of the network. We put a police officer soldier effectively in terms of the network-based IDS IPS that's going to stop attacks when they occur. We've added some shield for DDoS protection, but that's not enough. We really want it to secure. So we're going to keep the traffic out of the subnet with an ACL, but in AWS we'll call it a network ACL. And then we're going to further protect the host with what's called the host-based firewall, with an AWS term is actually a security group. Then we'll set up IAM, which would, if it's Active Directory previously, we'll just use the same Active Directory and federate it. And there you go. We matched our virtual machines to the in the data center to the virtual machines in the cloud. Poof, we've got it up and running. We took a high security environment from the data center, we matched it to the same high security environment in the cloud. Poof, we've got that running. So a lift and shift is basically taking your systems that are in your data center and virtualizing them and just port them to the cloud. That's it. It's not that complicated. So when it really comes to building the perfect cloud architect career, focus on what matters most. Focus on architecture, because that's what cloud architects do. They meet with customers, they find business, legal, and technical requirements, and they design a solution. So know how everything works, know how to take your original components and then translate them to the cloud. And it doesn't matter which cloud computing environment you'll work with, it'll work anywhere. Swap out DynamoDB for Google Cloud Bigtable, it doesn't matter. You could use Apache Cassandra in your data center and DynamoDB. We're all talking NoSQL databases, it's all the same. Don't make it complicated, take what you have, map it to your goal, and there you go, you have it. That's how you design a cloud architecture. Let me tell you about some free services we provide for the cloud architect community. On Monday and Thursday, every week, we have a free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, and we teach you what to do to get hired, because we know what it's like when you don't know what to do for your first cloud architect job. So we have these free webinars twice. We tell you what should be on your resume, what type of certifications you have, what hiring managers desire, how to do a perfect interview, and we do this free, and we do it twice per week. Highly recommend you join the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar on Mondays and Thursdays. Now, on every Tuesday, we have a technology webinar, and we talk about how to get real-life, real-world cloud architect experience so you can get hired. We do that every Tuesday. Most Wednesdays, but not every Wednesday, we have a YouTube Live where you basically bring us any cloud architect career questions and we will answer them real time. We are also introducing the Ask Cloud mic. I will leave my email address in the description below. If you've got any cloud computing career questions, send me an email and I will do my best to make a YouTube video for you within the next week. We can't obviously service all, and many of the questions are going to be similar, but we'll do everything we can to really help you meet your cloud architect career goals. We also have a free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate ebook. I'll leave the link in the description below. And we have a free online AWS Certified Solution Architect Training program. Again, I'll leave the link in the description below. Our team is authoring and will be releasing an AWS Advanced Security and an AWS Advanced Networking book for the certification exams. We will be releasing them completely free. I will leave the links for the pre-registration below. We'll be releasing them in approximately 8 weeks. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to talk about cloud architecture with you all. I'm so honored and thankful to be part of this community. If there's any way that I can help any of you in your careers, please let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.